Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me on my latest YouTube video. As promised, this video is going to be my thoughts of the recently released Get Back documentary by Peter Jackson that was on Disney Plus. So it was in 3 parts. As you all know, I've been a Beatles fan for 40 odd years, and I wasn't actually going to go to Disney Plus because I wasn't subscribed to it. Because originally this film was going to come out in the cinema, wasn't it? It was only going to be 2 hours or something long. So after thinking about it, I thought, now I'll take the plunge. Now I'll sign up to Disney Plus. So I've actually watched all 3 of the parts of the documentary. Now, as a Beatles fan, or Beatles fanatic, some people would say, I was absolutely amazed and blown away by the documentary. All I've ever seen is the old Let It Be film, which was released in 1970. And I used to have it on like a bootleg DVD thing. Now, all that showed basically was the Beatles not getting on. But at the time, that is all that we had. And even on the original Let It Be album, the songs, I don't think that they actually picked the best sort of like songs. Now, this documentary shows this whole like time, January 1969, in a completely different light. Yes, when at Twickenham Studios, there is a little bit of tension between George and Paul, and they're lacking in direction. They don't really know like what they're doing, because originally it was going to be the Beatles doing live versions of songs from the White Album. That was the original intention of the proposed movie. That changed to the Beatles rehearsing new songs for a possible album and maybe a live show at the end of it. So as the documentary goes on, like the thoughts of what the film was about and everything, because it was going to be a television special, then it was going to be a film, then it was going to go back to being a television special and things like that. There's some really, really nice footage in it. Like I say, the Twickenham Studio ones is probably the one that was, had been bootlegged loads and loads of times before on records and CDs. But the sound quality on this documentary is absolutely fantastic, because a lot of it was done off the actual cameras, wasn't it, and not off proper like recording things. The picture quality again is absolutely fantastic. It looks like it was actually shot yesterday. It's not grainy, it's really, really in high definition. When at Twickenham, yes, Paul does come across in some ways as being a little bit bossy, but then if you see the whole lot, because in the original Let It Be movie, I think things were took out of sequence and edited and stuff. But really, all he's doing is like trying to direct the Beatles into like, come on, lads, what are we going to do? I've wrote this song. Do I go? I've got it made sounding like this, but we're sort of like playing it like that. Yes, he does come across a little bit boss in it in the Twickenham one, but not as much as does in the Let It Be film, if that makes sense. Some of the songs are incomplete. Some of the songs that do actually show the Beatles recording or playing or rehearsing. For instance, you see Paul doing a virtually complete version of Another Day on the piano, and that which was later became his first solo single in '71, didn't it? We see the Beatles, and I mean the Beatles, so it is all 4 of them doing a version of John's Give Me Some Truth. There's a version of All Things Must Pass as well, George Harrison's masterpiece. It's a lot of the footage which was in the original film. This is where I'm a bit confused, because when the original film came out, obviously that was all that was given to the Beatles fans at the time. I mean, I was too young to go and see it in the cinema. I think they did show it on BBC Two around 1980, 81, something like that, at Christmas time. I've never really been a fan of it, apart from the rooftop bit, to be honest, the original Let It Be film. Because, I love the Beatles and I've got books, and, the Let It Be film just made it look like the Beatles were splitting up, but obviously they didn't split up till, over a year later, did they? yes, it does show you the argument with Paul and George, but actually, when you see it, it's not really an argument. It's just a bit of a disagreement. And to be fair, when the part one starts, George is all up for everything. Is in the discussion of everything. It's like saying to Paul, "Well, shall we try, playing it like this?" And you know, so there was getting on, and then but one day George comes in and it just looks completely fed up. I don't know what had gone off, and that is the day, from what I can make out watching it, that's the day when they was going through the 99th take of a song, or 99th rehearsal of a song or something. And then it came up to lunchtime, and George just gets up and says, "Well, I think I'll be leaving the band now." And he did. He actually left the band. It was only for a few days, but then after that, when they come back from lunch, you see John, Paul, and Mingo actually just carried on rehearsing the songs, but with the energy. I don't know if they were frustrated or thinking, "Oh my God, what are we going to do now?" But it was like really, really getting into the songs. Ringo's banging his drums and John's like that on his guitar, and Paul's on the bass, and it's really, really interesting. And around that time, that's when part one finishes. This isn't a detailed thing. It's just like I've said. This is just my thoughts and my opinions. You don't have to agree with them. I'm just telling you what I've seen and what I think as a Beatles fanatic. Part two starts off, and there's still a little bit at Twickenham, but then they go to the Apple Studios and 3 Savile Row. Once they're there, things change. George comes in. George is back. They're talking about Billy Preston and Eric Clapton and people like that. The atmosphere changes completely, because in the first part, which I forgot to say, in some of the scenes, John Lennon looks like he's absolutely out of his head on heroin. Whether he is or not, or he's just tired, I don't know. I wasn't there. They seem to imply he was, out of it. He still contributes and things like that. But when they get into the Apple Studios, he's contributing more. He's on about Across the Universe, doing a version of that. And then he says, "But I don't know if we can, because I think it's coming out on an EP," which was, I think, it was on about the Yellow Submarine EP that never did come out, did it, in the end? And then about some of the songs that they wrote when they was like growing up and things like that. The atmosphere changes completely. They're all getting on. You see, this is the nice thing about this. It does actually show them as a working unit, and they're still laughing and joking and things all the way through. Even when George and Paul are having a bit of a thing, they are still the Beatles. It is the four of them. Yes, Yoko's there. Linda comes in at a point. Even Pat is there at one point. Maureen, Ringo's wife, is there. One of the best bits for me in the film. I'm sorry if you like Yoko Ono. And at one point, Heather, that's Paul McCartney's, well, he went on to adopt it into Linda's daughter. She's there, and she's tapping she's with Ringo when Ringo's playing. I can't remember what song it isn't, blah, 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 like that. And she's tapping his tambourine. He sort of like goes like that. That's a brilliant moment. But the moment, one of the best moments in the film for me is there's a shot of Yoko, and she's doing her stuff while the Beatles are playing. Don't know what the song was. She's going, "Ah!" And the look on Heather's face, she sort of like goes. To me, that's probably the highlight of the film. I'm sorry for Yoko fans. I don't mean that in any disrespectful. I think it's just so funny to watch. You see Ringo on the piano trying to work out Octopus's Garden. Then George comes in and helps him write some of the songs, some of the song words to the song, and helps him with the bridge. Then they do a lot of old rock and roll songs. They do a version of Love Me Do. Yes, they do a version of Love Me Do. It's completely different to the one they did in 1962, but the words and everything are still the same. There's a point where Paul's on the piano and he's starting to do Let It Be, and then he goes into a little fragment of Please Please Me, and then it goes back into Let It Be. John does his Mean Mr. Mustard and all that lot. Brilliant songs. There's do a version of, what else do they do a version of? Obla Di Obla Da. It's fascinating to actually watch it. If you're a true Beatles fan, it's a must. I will tell you that, because there's things in this film that until now we didn't actually know existed. We'd heard about certain things, haven't we? I mean, Paul does a version of backseat of my car as well at one point. Then they start on about doing the live show, and they're like saying, well, maybe we should do it in Athens, or let's do it on a boat. At one point, Paul McCartney does say, well, let's do it somewhere where we shouldn't be, like we're trespassing, where we're playing where we shouldn't really play, and then perhaps the police will come or something like that. There's another point where I think this is just after George has left before he comes back, and I think John was at a meeting or he hadn't turned up, so it's just Paul and Mingo and a couple of other people, and they're talking, and you can actually see Paul McCartney is really, really upset, and it actually looks like he's crying. He like says, well, then there was two, sort of thing. They do talk about breaking up during the film as well. At one point, somebody, I think Paul says, well, it'll be like a divorce, and John goes, well, who'd have custody of the children? And then Paul replies, Dick James, children meaning the songs. Dick James actually is in it at some point. So's Peter Sellers. He's sits around and talks with the lads at one point. George Martin's there. Billy Preston has the time of his life, honestly. Every time you see Billy Preston, he's just laughing his head off. He comes in on his electric piano or whatever it is. You actually see him playing the guitar as well at one point, and drums. But once he's there, I think the atmosphere gets even better than what it was. I think they did calm down a lot when they got to the Apple Studios, because it felt more like home. And I think they started slightly later as well in the day. What else is there? And then they start playing all old rock and roll songs. There's a section where they're just playing really, really old rock and roll songs. So then part 3, which was the final part, is basically about them doing the concert, the rooftop concert. The only thing I've got a bit of a downside on that is it like goes into like, if this is the TV screen, you'll have a bit there, a bit there, and a bit there. So it's like 3 different like camera angles, which is okay. Then just go into like the normal shots and things like that. They're playing absolutely fantastic. You can see John and Paul look at each other at one point like that, and they sort of like wink at one another to say, yeah, we can do this, we can do it. Let's really, John's voice is absolutely fantastic. Paul's voice is fantastic. George doesn't sing a lot on the rooftop. I think he just joins in on the chorus of Get Back, if I remember rightly. Ringo's drumming's absolutely fantastic. The sound, brilliant. They really do. If they hadn't played live for, 2.5 years at that point, had they? Maureen's on the roof with them. Yoko's on the roof with them. I'm not sure if Patty's there or not. I don't think Linda's up on the roof with them. Then you've obviously got the cameraman and everybody else. It's like they tried to get back to, because at one point they do actually say about going to do the show at the Cavern. Now, wouldn't that have been brilliant? The Beatles back at the Cavern, but I think George Martin says, well, it's a long way to go, blah, 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 blah. I think it was actually Paul's idea, if I remember rightly, Paul and Mal Evans, isn't it? But it is a concert. At the end of the day, it is it's the last ever live performance the Beatles ever did, wasn't it? So that is absolutely fantastic. And you do, as far as I know, it is the concert in its entirety. But then it does skip to like people on. There's like an interview on the street asking people what they think, and there's like girls and it's going, "Do you know?" And going, "Yeah, it's the Beatles. It's the Beatles." But where are they? Well, they're up there on the roof. And they're going, "Wow, it's fab, it's fab." And they talk to a taxi driver, and he's going, "Yeah, it's great. Who is it? Is it the Beatles? Is that going to be their next song? Oh, it's great, isn't it?" But then on the other side, you get all these like upper class people, and they're going, "Well, this music's okay in its place, but I think it's disgusting that they're disrupting our day's work." It's the bloody Beatles, for God's sake, and it's free. But that's just the way it is. And then the coppers come, EC Pod, who, to be fair, the two that originally go look like they're like 18 or 19, and I don't think they really know what to do, but there is a hidden camera, which I never knew before. There was a hidden camera in the Apple reception, and it catches everything they say. And like one's like, "I hardly says anything," the other one's saying, "Well, you know, they're disturbing the peace. They're just, you know, you've got to go and get them to turn it off, otherwise I might have to make arrests." Then the sergeant comes, and he actually just looks like, you know the sergeant in Yellow Submarine cartoon? You're going, yeah, kitty, 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 like he actually looks like him. But yeah, all in all, it's absolutely fantastic. Yes, it's cost me £7.99 a month or something to watch it, but I've watched it, so technically I could like cancel my subscription now. But like I say, if I'd have gone to the pictures to watch it, it would have been about £15, wouldn't it? So if that's me and my missus, that's 30 quid. So I might as well keep Disney Plus like till after Christmas anyway, which I probably will. Plus, you can watch this as many times as you want while it's on it. After the concert or the rooftop gig, they go back into like the control room and they're listening to the mixes. Everybody's really, really happy. Everybody's in an upbeat mood, and like they're saying, "Yeah, yeah, you know, that's great, that's great." You know, the day after, they do some of the slower songs, like "Let It Be" and "The Long and Winding Road" and "Two of Us" and things like that. The stuff that they couldn't do up on the rooftop. But that's only like segments. I think that would have been a bit nice if they'd have like done the proper, because you've seen all these songs being rehearsed loads and loads of times all the way up through the three parts, and then the climax in one way is the rooftop concert, and then they go, and then the next day they did, and it just like shows you like snippets of it, where it probably would have been nice to see like, you know, the full "Let It Be," the long and winding road, you know, segments, and you know, Two of Us and things like that. That's not a criticism. It's just like me. If I had to say something that could have been done slightly better, I would say that is the only thing in the whole of these three parts. You're a Beatles fanatic like me, you will love it. My missus isn't actually a Beatles fanatic like me. She's just like the Beatles. She loved it. So I kept saying, I bet you're getting a bit bored now, aren't you? They're doing Get Back again. And she goes, no, because every time they do it, it's slightly different, which it is. You know, and if you've ever read books on the Beatles or you've listened to the Let It Be album, this is a must. It really is a must. I can't actually understand how different this is to the original Let It Be film, because looking at all this footage that Peter Jackson has like had access to, yes, it's been cleaned up and everything, and it does look absolutely, you know, it looks like it was the Beatles in the recording studio yesterday or last week. That's how good it actually looks. So when the Let It Be film originally came out, to me, it seems like they actually used all the worst parts of the film, apart from the snippets of the rooftop concert. Because if you do watch the original Let It Be film, it does actually look like the band splitting up there between your eyes. Now, I've had a couple of days to think about this, and the only thing I can think of is, by the time the Let It Be film came out, Alan Klein was actually the so-called manager, wasn't he, of the Beatles, although Paul never signed, did he? But Ringo, George and John did. I think John had actually officially left the group by then. So was it Alan Klein's like saying to whoever was like doing the editing, well, use that one, that one, that one. They're not the best, but it shows Paul in a slightly bad light. That's anything I can think of, because if you watch this new documentary that Peter Jackson's done, yes, on some, like I've said before, sometimes he does come across a little bit bossy, but if you actually take the time to watch the whole segment, I think he's more like fed up with himself, because he's trying to like tell, he's got other songs signed in his head and he can't get it to sound right when they're doing it. They do eventually. But you know, it was like his sort of like baby, wanted the Get Back project, you know, it was to try and get them back to being how they were before they started doing Sergeant Pepper's and stuff, to be a proper working band. But yeah, you know, it's what it is. If you're only a casual Beatles fan, the only downside could be it does go on quite a while. I think the three parts must go on for the best part of 8 hours in total. If it would have been released in the cinema, I think it was going to be 2 hours, but then you would have missed half of the good stuff, wouldn't you? And there's another interesting thing about this documentary. Right, most people will say Yoko Ono, that was the reason the Beatles broke up, right? They do actually laugh about this at one point, and even Paul says, "Oh well, in 50 years' time, it'll be the Beatles split up because Yoko sat on an amp." Right, but they do laugh about it, right? But later on, it actually defends John and Yoko because he says, "Well, they're in a new relationship. John's infatuated by her. I've got no problem. They're in love. Good luck to him, sort of thing. And then just after that, Linda comes with Paul. So I think the thing was at the time, and up until these sessions, it was very, very rare that any of the Beatles' wives or girlfriends actually went to a recording session. On some of them, it does spoil it a bit with Yoko being there because they're working through songs and she's sat there like reading a book, but she sat right next to John, which I suppose would have been a little bit annoying at the time to probably Paul or George or even Mingo. The best bit is when the kids come, when Heather comes in, because they're all like laughing and joking with her and things like that. It was nice to see Maureen, and she's very, when they're playing on the rooftop, you can see she's going like that, bopping around, and she's actually sat next to Yoko. So all in all, I would give it a 10 out of 10. Like I say, if you haven't yet seen it and you are thinking of subscribing to Disney or Disney Plus, because that is the only way we can get it in the UK. Yes, it's £7.99 a month, but you can cancel that at any time, and it is well worth it. To be honest, like I've said before, I'm blown away that the songs that I didn't even know that Beatles did during the recording sessions for this Get Back project. There's a couple of things that I expected to be in that weren't in it, like when I know that they did a version of You Got a Hold on Me. That's not in it anywhere. And they did a version of Besame Mucho, which isn't in it anywhere. They do a version of Old Brown Shoe. That is just George, Ringo, Paul, and Billy Preston. And you can see Paul's really into it. He's playing, so all this about him and George think, oh, forget it. They've got the moments when sort of like ignore each other for a little bit, but you don't know what's been said before the cameras roll, do you? And things like that. And at the end of the day, they've been a band. They've been together for 10 years, haven't they? At that point, or probably slightly longer, wasn't it? So they knew each other in and out, and there's probably perhaps George thought, well, if I say anything, they're not going to listen to me anyway. Another interesting fact is George starts doing a song, and John Lennon has to pipe up and say to people, like the camera people and the film crew, can you shut up? George is doing a song. Give him a chance, sort of thing, which I thought was actually quite nice. So all this about Lennon and McCartney didn't really, rate George as a songwriter, I think's a load of crap when you see this, because they are encouraging him. They even, like, when they're working on one of George's songs, John will say, well, why don't you, you're not quite sure of what to say, just say the first thing that comes in your head till you get the song right, and then you can always change the lyrics. That's another thing. You see him changing the lyrics to a lot of the songs while they're actually rehearsing them. So all in all, it was very, very interesting. Like I say, if you're any casual Beatles fan, it might be a little bit long for you, but to me, it was worth every minute, every second. There's something going on. Like I say, you see the Beatles as really we should be remembering them at that time. This is the thing that I've got about Let It Be being the last Beatles album, because it wasn't, was it? Because Abbey Road was recorded after it, although Abbey Road came out before it. So it made it look like that was the last thing that they ever did, where really it wasn't. But if you get the chance to watch this documentary, which I hope that you do, and I think that you all agree with me that Peter Jackson and Apple and Paul and Mingo and the estates of John Lennon, the estates of George Harrison have absolutely done a wonderful job, because this actually makes it, shows you what it was originally like. Like I say, why the original Let It Be film came out and used like the worst versions of the songs as well. Um, it's a bit like the Let It Be box set, isn't it? You know, one that came out, you know, because it's sort of like been despectorized in a lot of ways. It sounds like a fresh album, where this is like this documentary could have been recorded by the Beatles last week. That's how good it is. You know, if the Beatles, you know, if we was in 1969 and they'd done that last week and they put it on telly today, that's how good it looks. So yes, all in all, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Now I know some people aren't going to agree with everything I've said on here, which, you know, that is up to you. As I've said, this is just my thoughts and my opinions on this documentary. I think it's absolutely amazing. It is well worth paying to watch it. That's all I'll say. I'm not endorsed by Disney. I'm not endorsed by Apple. I'm not endorsed by Peter Jackson or anybody like that. You know, as a fan, you know, if you're thinking of watching it, you're thinking, well, I'll wait for the Blu-ray to come out. Or the Blu-ray is going to cost you more than £7.99, isn't it? So, you know, watch it while you can on Disney. Yeah, if you want the view, I mean, I'll probably get the Blu-ray or the DVD or whatever it is when it comes out, because apparently that's going to have an extra 6 hours footage on it. But, you know, this Get Back documentary is absolutely wonderful. Honestly, I can't praise it enough. Yes, I know there's been critics saying, well, blah, 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 but, you know, it goes on for too long, or, you know, they've done, you wants to see him doing 20 different rehearsal takes of the same song. But they're the same people that were, if those, you know, if they only said, like, did one, like, rehearsal, showed you one rehearsal of each song, but they did more than that, they should have put more in it. You know, it's very, very odd. Some of these people that are supposed to be really, really good Beatles fans and are slagging it off, I don't really think are Beatles fans, do you? Because if you like something, yes, it's good to have an opinion. Don't get me wrong. I've got nothing wrong with it. I mean, this is just my opinion. Some people won't agree with it, but, you know, I'm one of these people where I love the Beatles. The Beatles have been in my life for 40 odd years. That's just me collecting them. Obviously, they were around before that, weren't they? But I can't really remember. I mean, I can remember Yellow Submarine and stuff like that when I was a kid, an odd song. You know, so to me, anything that keeps their memory alive and fresh and shows something that we've always thought was like a dark period, as, you know, it's been, well, really, they were still okay. You know, they're still laughing and joking. Yes, they had to be serious at some points and stuff like that. But you got to remember what was going on at the same time. You know, they just formed Apple, and there was losing control of Northern Songs and things like that. You know, so there was lots of business stuff going on as well as them trying to do rehearsing new songs for a new album and a concert at the end of it. You know, and bearing in mind, originally they only had 2 weeks to do it. It did stretch out to nearly 4 weeks. You know, so, you know, it's one of them things. It's like a lot of things that have come out this year. So-called Beatles fans have slagged it off, like the George Harrison box set. Well, what do you want to do? But to me, that George Harrison box set is brilliant. The Let It Be box set is brilliant. You know, if you don't, you know, if you don't want to go out and buy 8 albums or whatever it is, don't buy it. Simple. But then don't slag it off if you haven't got it. Because if you haven't actually took the time to listen to it, or in this case, watch something, how can you, like, slag it off? You know, and with this, yeah, and, you know, I was blown away with the first part. I was blown away with the second part and the third part. But now I've had a couple of days to, like, digest it all, and I'm absolutely now feel it was better than what I did when I was watching it, if that makes sense. I will probably watch it again. You know, why I've got this Disney thing, which can get it on, like, their catch-up thing. You know, but to be honest, if you're a true Beatles fan, please watch it. If you don't agree with what I've said, you know, that's entirely up to you, because, like I say, this is just my opinion and my thoughts on it. I think it is well worth it. We've waited a long time, haven't we, for it? You know, we waited 50 odd years, haven't we, for it? So yes, I would highly recommend it. But, you know, if you don't think it's for you, then that's fair enough. You know, wait for the DVD to come out, or wait for bits of it to come on YouTube. But you will only ever see bits of it. You won't. You know, I don't think you'll ever see the whole lot on YouTube. But to me, is, you know, watch it in the order that it was, like, made. So you watch part 1, part 2, part 3. You don't watch part 2 and then part 3 and then part 1, because it shows you how the project evolved from what it was going to be to what it ended up being. So I'm sorry if that's gone on a little bit, but I just thought, I've been reading some reviews and I'm thinking, why are people saying that about it? Yes, I know everybody's got the opinion. To me, it does make sense to show them rehearsing certain songs for, 9 or 10 different times, because if you take the time to actually listen to it, you can show how they're working on the song and how it goes from like being an acoustic nonsense song. I mean, when they start doing Get Back, the lyrics are completely different to how it ended up. And even up to the last day before they did the rooftop concert, they still changed the lyrics to "Don't Let Me Down." So it's, if you're a true fan, you'll love it. If you're a casual fan, you will love it, but you might find it a little bit long. You might not. That's what I'm saying. You might find it a little bit long. And if you're a critic, well, you're going to moan about it anyway, aren't you? You've probably already got it in your head that, oh, it's Beatles, this Beatles, that, blah, 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 blah. Don't watch it then. That's all I'll say. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for joining me anyway. Like I've said before, I just wanted to do this a little bit of justice. My missus loves it, and like I said, she isn't the world's biggest Beatles fan. She laughed her head off at parts of it, and some of the things Paul and John do, and some of the accents John does, and he keeps going, "Today, your host, the Rolling Stones," because this was just after he appeared in the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus film, wasn't it? So there is fun elements in it. The musicianship shines through in places. I never knew Billy Preston played guitar, which I do now. I never knew that that George Harrison could play drums, which I do now after watching this. So there is things to learn all the way through it. George Martin's comes across. Sometimes is there, sometimes is not, because although we produced the original recordings, I think the day-to-day recordings was down to Glyn Johns, wasn't it? Who is actually featured in it as well. Michael Lindsay-Ogg, the original producer of the film, he's in it. He looks about 10. I can't work out whether I like him or not, to be honest, because sometimes he comes across as being a bit like a spoiled schoolboy. But that's just my opinion. And that's about it for today. So if you get the chance to watch it, please do. If you don't think it's for you, then don't watch it. Simple, If you watch my videos, I will tell you how it is. I will say if something's good, I'll tell you if I like it. If I don't like it, I think it's rubbish. I like this. I don't like it. I love it. I think it's one of the best Beatles documentaries I've ever seen, and I've seen a few of my times. I've seen a few. And don't forget, this is official. It's not an unofficial documentary. The Beatles have had to sanction all this, and Apple have had to sanction it all. I thought with it being on Disney that they might have softened it down a little bit, but they haven't. I mean, they're swearing it, they're smoking in it, they're drinking in it. They're messing about. So it is like how it was recorded. They haven't you can't say that word, so they haven't bleeped it out or missed a scene out just because they're swearing in it or something like that. Yes, so it is. I would very, very highly recommend it. But then again, please remember, this is just my opinion and my thoughts on it. You might not agree, which you're entitled to. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, criticism is okay if you've bothered, to watch it, or if it's a record, you've actually bothered to listen to the record. So that's going to be it for me. So thanks for watching. Thank you for everybody that is subscribing. Thank you for people that are liking my videos. To me, like I've said before, I haven't been doing this channel very long. I think it's the 5th month now. Yes, the subscriptions are going up slightly. The likes and stuff are going up. If you want to leave comments, please leave comments. As long as it's a nice comment. Don't leave anything nasty, because that's not what we're here for, is it? We're supposed to be Beatles fans and record collectors, aren't we? Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video, would you? So hail, rock and roll. So thank you very much. If you'd like to subscribe and you haven't, please do. It is free. Thank you to everybody that has subscribed. If you'd like to subscribe, if you press the subscription button, which should be down there, and then if you hit the notifications bell, then you will get like notifications of when I am doing new videos. I do try to do between 1 and 3 a week, just depending on what shifts I'm working. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned something from it. Like I say, it is only my opinions, you know, but I have been a Beatles fan for like 40 odd years. I think this Peter Jackson documentary is absolutely amazing. Like I said, it is probably, well, it is the best documentary I've ever seen of the Beatles. Period. Honestly, I'm not making that up. It is. So until the next video, which might be tomorrow, I don't know yet. Please stay safe and love one another. And I will see you very, very soon. So it's Beatle Dave from Derbyshire in the UK saying thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you soon.